let me just give you a brief overview of how things are going in the city and talk to you about some things of note, particularly on the north side and then in general. We have had a very good year for the city. We've had tremendous economic development, and in fact our numbers show that we are going to be on a record pace to far exceed any other previous year in terms of the construction and the permits and the amount of money that we have let and the size of the construction. And it's all sorts of construction. It runs the gamut from retail to residential to businesses to downtown. So for example, we expect in the next week the first part of the Inner Harbor project constructions to start. I signed those permits tonight, and that will be moving forward, we hope, next week. But it's not as simple as saying, you know, for example, because there's garbage and because there's trash, we can go and clean it up and then cite the people and make them pay. But if it is somebody who is walked away from their obligations on their house, it becomes this kind of chase where we have to chase them over and over again. There are approximately 4,000 houses, 4,000 properties, excuse me, in the city of Syracuse that are tax delinquent to the point where we can seize them. There are a number of properties, as you all know, where people have just walked away from their responsibilities. And we have seen the issue, whether it's on the north side or whether it's on the south side, the east side, or the west side. Every single neighborhood is concerned with vacancies and is concerned with properties where people have let the properties deteriorate. And as an administration, what we are doing with that is really implementing a lot of new ideas and ways to do that. So let me talk about that specifically. You're going to be hearing a lot about it at the end, between now and at the end of the year and going forward, about the land bank and about what we are moving forward with in terms of really going after people who are not paying their taxes. For a long time, the city has kind of turned somewhat of a blind eye to people who don't pay their taxes, because there was a concern that we don't want to get innocent people caught up in this situation, and we were also somewhat limited if people fell behind in their taxes and they wanted to come in and start paying their taxes. We were somewhat limited with how much flexibility we could give them. We are now going to have more flexibility in those programs, and we're also now going to start aggressively going after people and saying, if you don't pay your taxes, we are going to seize your property, and then we're also going to give it to the land bank so that the land bank can start marketing and doing things much more effectively than we can as a city. Another reason why we haven't seized all those properties, because we can't take care of the properties that we currently have. We don't have the resources to cut and clean and cite all of the properties where people have walked away. So we're doing the best that we can, and we need your help to continue to tell us where those properties are so we can try to stay on top of it.
The man collects his rent. It's a 5-unit apartment building. He has one trash can for the 5 units.
And part of what we have also done with that is we recognized early on that there were a lot of unscrupulous landlords who were taking advantage of people who had benefits from the county. So we have worked with the county to establish that if there are landlords who are leasing out properties or apartments that don't meet codes or don't meet a certain standard, that they will not be getting those kind of benefits. So we're working on doing that as well.
I thank you. I would appreciate it if you would just straight up the hill.
Absolutely, sir.
Would look at it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Also, we have been approached by the developers who bought the former Wegmans site, and they have submitted the paperwork to move forward with making that a grocery store. And there it is very, very good news for not just this neighborhood, but the entire city of Syracuse. And their goal is to have a grocery store there up and operating by Thanksgiving, which is a very ambitious goal, but nevertheless, this is a group of developers who have done this before, and to date, everything that they've said that they have done and can do, they have done. So we are very excited about that. At the same time, just down on the south side of the city, down in the valley, the Tops grocery store down there is also expected to be opened by Thanksgiving as well. So that is very good news. And on the east side, the Price Right on Erie Boulevard is moving along as well. So we have a lot of new grocery stores that are going to be opening up in the city, and that is very good news for everyone across the city. In addition to which, on the north side, you have all undoubtedly seen that we took down the Tisca building, and so there's no more orange sawhorses and cones around that building. There are plans to have put in residential buildings there, but that is not in the near term. That is more in the 2-year, and funding, if the funding comes through from the required developers to make that happen. Nevertheless, taking down the Tisca building was a goal that we in the city wanted to see happen. One, because it was such an eyesore, and two, it was becoming more and more dangerous for pedestrians in the city. And three, because as I learned very early on in my administration, that when you have buildings that become that decrepit and they collapse, they become much more expensive to demolish than if you can take care of them in advance. So I was concerned that a snowfall and a regular Syracuse winter would have that building collapse, and we'd have to shut down Butternut and then find $1 million to demolish that building. So a couple of things happened. One, we did not have a heavy winter, so we didn't have to worry about a lot of snow collapsing the roof. And two, we were able to work with St. Joe's and home headquarters and developers to remove that eyesore and take care of it. So you all see that it's virtually ready to be developed right now as we speak. We have also in the city made significant progress. We have 4 schools underway with the Joint School Construction Board Initiative in Phase 1. Fowler is scheduled to be open this year for the beginning of the semester, which is just a couple of short weeks away. Dr. Weeks is also scheduled to be open as well. We're making great progress on that. And the Center Institute for Technology will be open hopefully next year in the beginning of the year in January or February. And then H.W. Smith on the east side of the city, we have started doing plans and construction there as well. So we are well underway with that. Let me talk about the issues that we have in terms of the city with some of our crime. We have had very good numbers in terms of shots fired and homicides, but we have had spikes in burglaries and robberies. In particular with the north side, we have new security cameras coming, and they will be being placed on Butternut. We decide where to place security cameras by the numbers and where we see the kind of crime, and Butternut is next on the list, so we hope to have those put in place relatively shortly. We have had great experience with the security cameras when we first implemented them on the near west side, and we expect that they're going to have the same kind of beneficial impact to the neighborhood on Butternut Street. The United States, and particularly cities, are heading right towards a fiscal crisis. And the fiscal crisis is impacting cities first before it impacts others. We've seen cities in California declare bankruptcy, and just down 81 we saw the city of Scranton have to pay all of its workers minimum wage because they were not able to make the kind of decisions necessary in order to avoid that kind of fiscal crisis. My administration is committing a lot of resources and intellectual power to try to avoid that, and we are working with our state representatives to make sure that we avoid that fate. But nevertheless, these are unprecedented fiscal times, and they are going to mean that there are hard decisions that are going to face all of us as a city, and that we are all committed to working together to make sure that we can minimize and get through what are, to date, unprecedented fiscal times. Now let me talk about the second thing, which is you had what every Syracuse resident needs to know, and also the postcard we send out about trash pickup. And the question was a reasonable question. What happens if people just don't want to meet those responsibilities? And what happens is we can cite them, and we do cite them. So if you put your trash out, or if your trash stays there, or it's not in a completely, mishmash in front. And I do this a lot. I take pictures of it, and I send it to our codes office and say, go and cite them, and people have 24 hours to clean it up. And if they don't clean it up, then we go back and we clean it up, and then we put the dollar amount on their taxes. And then hopefully in the system that we have, then people will pay for it ultimately on their taxes. But unfortunately, what we have happening now in too many numbers is that we have people who've walked away from their property, so we're putting it on a tax bill for people who don't pay taxes anymore. And what we also have is a huge problem with dumping. People from outside the city, I'm convinced, who come in and know, because they don't want to pay the kind of fees and services that you have to pay out in other towns, they come into the city under dark of night, they find a corner, and they just dump their junk. And what we are doing is also starting a major effort to find those people and really throw the book at them. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about that as well. Part of what we think our longer term strategy, though, is to say to people, you can't walk away from your property. And the problem, as I discussed before with the other gentleman, is that before we had the land bank, before we had that in place, if we seized a piece of property, we didn't have the resources in terms of either the money or the people or frankly the expertise to market property, to bring it up to code, to do all those things that you have to do in order to turn property over. But with the land bank, we will now have that expertise in a group that is focused solely on taking that property and making it a performing asset again. The question is, don't we have community service for people who engage in, let's not to use a familiar name, but minor criminal activities? The answer is yes, we do, and we have those people cleaning up a lot of trash and a lot of litter. And unfortunately, the issue of trash and litter is a plague in our city. And I have said repeatedly since becoming mayor that you can't expect the government or the mayor or the police chief or the fire chief or any of us to do this on our own. We as a community have to say enough. We're going to stop treating our city like a trash can. And so when you see somebody throw a Doritos bag or throw a Burger King bag out the window, you've got to either, if you feel if it's safe, engage them, and if you don't think it's safe, do not engage them, but take down their information so that we can. And let me give you an example. Last year, I was driving with a police officer with me, driving by Dr. King's school, and the car right in front of us threw out a Burger King bag right out of the window. And I looked at the police officer, and he put on his lights, he pulled the guy over. He pulls the guy over, and the guy has a 3-year-old in a car seat behind him. And his girlfriend was with him. And he says to the police officer, "Why are you giving me a hard time? Can't you see I've got my baby with me?" That's the kind of mindset. Now, he's driving in that neighborhood. Chances are that his daughter in 2 years is going to be going to that school and walking by that garbage. But we've gotten to a point where, as a community, we don't have the best expectations for ourselves, and we allow others to engage in behavior that is unsatisfactory. So I will also tell you that I've had lots of people say to me, "Well, Mayor, can't you send a litter crew? Or you used to have litter crews and you don't have litter crews. Can't you send a litter crew?" We don't have as many litter crews, but we have litter crews. And here's the sad fact. We could send them down Butternut, and an hour later, it will be trashed again. So it's up to all of us to say enough is enough. But there's a lot of exciting things happening downtown. And whether you talk about the Creek Walk, moving the bus terminal, the renovations on the Pike Block building, the fact that you can't get an apartment downtown, demand is so high, there's a lot of really exciting things happening downtown. And what we know from the studies that previous people paid millions and millions of dollars is that if you can get people to be downtown, then the energy that grows from that will help all of our neighborhoods. And so that's what we're doing. And we're seeing, you know, our tenants in terms of our business tenants are up. Our residential tenants are up. There's more restaurants moving in there. There's more pedestrians. On lunchtime, if you go down on the Creek Walk, you can barely get on the Creek Walk because there are so many bikers and walkers and a lot of people from outside the city enjoying what we have to offer. In addition to which, as I said in the beginning, the work on the phase 1 of the Inner Harbor project is going to start next week, and that's an incredibly exciting project that's going to bring OCC down and more residences to the Inner Harbor and really revitalize and create a whole new neighborhood. And in this kind of economic climate, and given the challenges that we have, that's unprecedented in New York State.
I want to talk about the positives of the Northside. First of all, with the grocery store, we want to thank you for really helping with that. That was an amazing feat in 3 weeks.
Well, it was, I would love to take credit for it, but as with most things, credit deserves to go to a lot of people, including a lot of people here who wouldn't take no for an answer and drove to Wegmans in Rochester, hand-delivered the letter, and continued to be interviewed and said, this isn't right, it's not right for the city, it's not right for the community, it's not right for how Wegmans views itself. So without your continuing to push and accept no for an answer, I would not have been able to do what I could have done. And Councilor Barrett was also incredibly helpful. There he is. Councilor Barrett.
Things going on the North Side that are so positive. The Butternut Community Police Center is working with the kids. Hope Print, who the young lady here is affiliated with, is working with the New Americans. Women Transcending Boundaries is working with the New Americans. There are people at White Branch Library that are fabulous, and the kids are learning to pick up garbage. I would challenge everyone tonight to get involved in TNT or get involved in one of the organizations with the with Northside Up and be a part of the solution.
Let me just comment on something on what Daryl said in terms of the New Americans that are here. You know, if you read the newspaper or follow what's been going on in the past couple of days, there's been a lot of discussion about immigration in our country. And there are a lot of very smart people who say that immigration is going to be the savior for cities. And in fact, I think yesterday, Mayor Bloomberg from New York City was in Chicago with Mayor Emanuel talking about immigration is going to save the United States' cities. And if you think about it, it's really not that unusual an idea because that's how we all got here, and we have a proud tradition of welcoming different cultures, but I think somewhere along the line we forgot that. But they are a tremendous asset and tremendous energy, and if we can help them through what has got to be a very difficult transition for the first 3 years they're here, they're people who are desperate to have homes, desperate to take care of their families, to live in peace, and have incredible work ethics, and we're going to be the beneficiaries of that if we are good neighbors and help them through this process.
What I was wondering is, you know, everyone in the North Side did such a great job of getting a grocer into that Wegmans space as well. I was wondering if, in addition to reaching out to the university to try to get money and taxes, there are also thousands of students. Upstate New York is the second highest student per capita after Boston, but the problem is people come for 4 years and then leave. So are there any programs that, you know, you're partnering with SU, partnering with OCC, partnering with Lemoyne, Ithaca College, you know, all the various universities in the area, to try to bring them into the city and make them realize all the amazing things that are going on, all the amazing diversity throughout the city, and in terms of, you know, hosting block parties. This is on the residents too, hosting block parties to highlight the restaurants in the area, what's going on, that kind of thing. To try to bring those students off the hill and into the city to engage and realize, look at all the potential in the city. What can I do to give back? What can I do to stay in the city and really kind of connect?
Thank you for that question. Great partners from our universities. Chancellor Cantor has been fantastic at that, seeing the university as a public good. And from Say Yes to Education to the summer programs, which had a lot of students, particularly not just Syracuse University students, but college students from the area who came back and were employed this summer by Say Yes to be not just camp counselors, but academic counselors and do all of that. At Pompey School has a very close relationship with Lemoyne, and so they have teachers coming in to, I think Cathedral Academy at Our Lady of Pompeii is maybe the title now, doing that. So we have a lot of very strong partnerships where we see opportunities to show students that there is good that can be done and that they can have a really meaningful impact and make a difference in the city of Syracuse.
St. Joe's Hospital, what they've done up through there is just unbelievable.
Yes, which is in partnership. St. Joe's has taken a very active role in helping us with the North Side and realizing that if the North Side deteriorates, St. Joe's ability to grow and be a thriving institution will deteriorate as well.
Also, the employees they got up there is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It just keeps growing.
St. Joe's has got a very ambitious plan to expand and grow, and they've been helping in terms of a relationship with the city. They've helped be a partner and help build really high quality, affordable homes that are on the boundary of that property, and also working with their employees to offer them low interest loans and the ability to move into those properties so they can walk to work. I think, Joe, you might have been with me a couple of months ago when Senator DeFrancisco's, the house that he grew up in for the first 3 or 4 years of his life, which had completely deteriorated. St. Joe's, and working with the city and home headquarters, came in, renovated the property, built a brand new property, and there is a nurse with her 2 sons living there, and she walks to work, and she is thrilled with the neighborhood, thrilled that she can walk to work. One of her sons goes to Franklin, I believe, and one of her sons goes to Pompeii. Thrilled with all of it. So those are the kind of partnerships that we're fostering with our institutions and with employees that we think are going to really benefit us in the long run.
That's awesome. Stops a lot of the crime up through there.
It sure does. It sure does. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to know, it's all good for what St. Joe's is doing, but I live on North McBride, and there's a lot of vacant houses and vacant lots that home headquarters has bought but has done nothing.
Up and look, we put a lot of pressure on home headquarters to buy those properties, because once they buy them, they take care of them. And we always say, look, we in the city can't, but we make home headquarters do it. If home headquarters has bought the property, you will rest assured that in the near term, something is going to happen with them. But the reason, candidly, that something hasn't happened yet is because we stepped in and said, home headquarters, you got to help us tear down the Atiska building. So all the money that they had for other things, we said, stop. The Atiska building is really our priority, and they work very closely with us. They're working very closely with St. Joe's in doing all of that work. They're doing yeoman's work, not just on the north side, but all over the city. All right, I'm still going to be here. It's quarter up, though, and so I want to thank you all for coming tonight. And as I will be here, the police are here, some of my members of my administration are here, so thank you all very much. Have a good night.